So business advisory, I'm not a big fan of buzzwords. I was talking to one of my clients the other day, and we were saying if you were to build a typical accountancy website and put all the words, the ones that get overused, and it would say, welcome to XYZ Accountants. We are proactive. We are business advisors. We are trusted business advisors, and we've been around since 1482, and we have 47 team members, and 4 of them are chartered accountants, and they have been so since 1582. And it's some of these buzzwords can bring up concepts that we think we understand, or even worse, we think our clients understand. And a lot of times they don't. And I thought the presentation this morning that Chaz was doing was spot on about what your clients are like, what entrepreneurs are like. They don't care about the word business advisory. They care about what they get from it. But I think this is an excellent session to be running for that reason, because we need to challenge some of those buzzwords. So one of the things you can be doing today is thinking about not just business advisory, but all the kinds of words that you use. And we're going to be talking about your clients and how it impacts them. And it's so important to do, particularly in this time of digital marketing, because people are not going to be searching Google for business advisory or proactive accountants. So, and we'll talk about this later as well, but I want you to be thinking about what was already said this morning, that if you're going to make your accountancy firm this massive success, then you need to take your eyes off yourself. And you got to put it on the client. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to do a little brief intro, and Andrew will do one. It's pretty much going to be an interview kind of thing today. Andrew and I are just going to bounce back and forth with what we're talking about with business advisory. We have a grand sum of about 6 slides just to keep us on track. Please do pipe in, raise your hand and speak, or just throw out your question. I think they want you to use a microphone if you have a question. Well, we love questions. We will have time for them at the end, all being well. And if not, I'm here all day. I believe Andrew is as well, so you can come and find us. My name's Karen Rayburn. I'm the managing director of The Profitable Firm. We are a creative agency for accountants. We do content and design. And we've fallen into that after initially wanting to do all the marketing things for accountants. And we've discovered, as I think many accountants are discovering in the professional services arena, you start with this broad umbrella, and then you keep bringing it down and down and down in a good way. So we focus on the content and design, and then you use that good content for your lead generation and your marketing and get more business. So we have offices in Nottingham, but we work with accountants all over the world, and our team is local and remote. And we love the digital world that we have and the opportunities that it brings, not only for us, but particularly for our clients. So that is myself. I'm going to let Andrew.
Stand up, or?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm Andrew Rhodes. I'm the managing partner of Sobo Rhodes. We're located mainly at our office in Harrow. We've also got offices in the West End of London and also in Watford. We're a fairly typical firm insofar as we act for SMEs. We're 7 partners, about 45 people. Nowadays, my main role is actually business advisory, whatever it's terminology. Hasn't always been the case, but latterly over the last 20 years it has been. The reason for that is that 20 years ago I decided that I wanted a different sort of firm. I had to create a sort of strategy that would make it all worthwhile. We were about 11, 12 partners. I wanted to bring it down to 5 or 6 that truly actually felt the same way as I did in terms of being, looking ahead, etc. And I had to create a really, really good strategy plan. Notwithstanding the fact that the bank, we wanted about £750,000. We had to convince them as well. It worked, thank God. After that, I decided, well, actually, maybe I should be providing business advisory services to clients in the same way that it helped me. I started to use some structured business advisory tools that actually worked very well, brought in a lot of clients, and haven't looked back since then. So that's been my main focus of work, alongside all the other accounts and audit and typical compliance things that we all do, and the rest of my partners do as well. And so that's where I'm at really today. So.
Thank you. So the reason that Andrew and I are doing this together is that there's a lot of conceptual things we're going to talk about with business advisory, particularly related to marketing, because that's my favorite and what I do. But Andrew is a good example of somebody who has implemented it. And as he says, he's been doing this for a while. And I think what's hard for us to grasp in this instant age of like, we get everything the second we want it. You want to watch a movie, you download it, it's ready to watch in about a minute and a half. And we have that expectation for marketing and for new business too. And it's really good to listen to somebody who has been doing it and just ticking over day after day. And as was mentioned this morning, what Andrew is going to tell you is not the prescribed structure. You're not to write down everything he did and then go back to the office and follow it step by step. It probably won't work even if you did that because you're not him. Your firm is not his. So you want to take out what is useful and relevant. And if you're not sure, talk to Andrew, or talk to me, or talk to other accountants who have done it and get some sense of that. But I notice a real trend of accountants asking me what the answer is, what the rule is. And when it comes to something like business advisory and marketing, and a lot of what accountants are doing, there isn't a hard and fast rule. And I know that's hard to hear because you want the answer and you really genuinely want to implement it. But you just have to try things. And if you listen to what other people do and you pull that together and you try something for yourself and keep trying and be persistent and plug away, there's great success for you. So let's talk about what business advisory actually is. That's the first thing we're going to cover. We're going to talk about profitability, and then we're going to talk about specifics for your firm. So the first question to ask yourself, as I mentioned at the start, is what is it actually? So I'd like to get a few things out of you guys' heads. So if you could take the paper that you've got here, or any piece of paper, and actually write down 3 things, whether it's services or names or anything that you consider to be business advisory. You can write down 5, you can write down 12, at least write down 3. You have 30 seconds. Okay, it looks like most people have at least 2, if not 3. So can you just, anybody, we don't need the microphone for this, but just shout out 1 or all 3 of yours, whatever you have. Advice to help business grow, okay. Profit improvement. Help, good, help. Supporting clients.
Lifestyle coaching.
Lifestyle coaching. Yeah. Strategies. All that covers a lot of ground, so many different kinds of strategies. Not compliance. Would everybody in the room generally feel that advisory covers everything that isn't compliance? Anyone disagree? Paul, do you disagree?
Some compliance stuff.
Okay. Okay, so there's a compliance element, perhaps. Okay, what were some of yours? Did you write anything down? Yeah?
KPIs.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Systems, installation, software, whatever.
Yep.
Training.
Yep.
On stage or 0 or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. KPIs, management accounts, and systems, I think, are, at least from what I've experienced, what many of the accountants I work with consider to fall into that. But as, you know, lifestyle coaching, any of those any other ones that haven't been thrown out. Sorry? Tax planning? Okay.
I think any specialist is right, so that could be HR, legal, marketing.
Uh-huh. Anything specialist, she's saying, HR, legal, marketing, so there's a whole realm. Anything else that we missed? Cash collection, maybe? Florian there from Chicago.
I would think it should start with helping your client have the right mindset.
Okay. Okay, having the right mindset.
Just being a sounding board for the person doing advisory all the time.
Yep, being a sounding board. Mm-hmm. Cool. So I think what you're probably already seeing, and I'm always thinking with a marketing mind, these words that you're using, sounding board, help, lifestyle, support, strategy. Strategy can lean into the, not even buzzword, just overused perhaps. And the key is to pick out words that are, and you can tell from everything you guys have said, I'm not saying that none of those things are business advisory. I'm not even saying you can't use the word business advisory. You can. but we've got to think like our clients think. And it's really important to start this process and ask yourself this question. You can ask your clients this question. We're going to be talking about this a little later, what you can talk to them about. But particularly from a marketing perspective, when it comes to telling your clients what it is that you do, what it is that you have to offer, using words that mean something to them helps them understand it so much faster, which helps you with getting more of them on board and profitability. Do you want to address your thoughts on business advisory?
Yeah, I agree. It's whatever, all the points that you actually made, it's all appropriate to call them business advisory. I think business advisory, the way that clients understand it and the way we understand it in terms of a service, is more a combination of actually of coaching, consulting and mentoring. And by coaching, what I mean is that coaching is more, how I see it, is actually helping the client to come to their own solutions. We're all used to consulting because we're telling our clients what they want to know from our knowledge. And mentoring is because actually to some extent we've been there and done it. We've seen lots of clients, lots of different situations, hundreds if not thousands. And it's that combination that actually makes it into sort of a word, probably as facilitation is actually the optimum word. And I think the difference between business advisory and the majority of the other services that we provide accountants is the fact that most of the other things that we do are solution-based. It doesn't matter, we prepare accounts, we do tax returns, we give them tax-saving advice, we do raise finance for them. It's all solution-based. Whereas from the point of view of business advisory, it's actually not necessarily with that solution, because actually what we're helping the client to do is articulate their aims and ambitions. And actually, sometimes many SMEs, and I'm mainly in the SME market, I don't know, most of the small, medium-sized are in the SME market, are actually helping the clients have probably never done that, or very few of them have done it, or certainly very few of them have ever written it down. And we do have a trusted advisor status, whether you say it's maybe tarnished, but I think we're right high up there. And we are in a very good place to provide that sort of combination of those three things and facilitating. So from the point of view of helping our clients to understand what they really want, and obviously as SMEs, it's partly business, it's partly personal, what they want to get out of their businesses. Most of them are business owners, probably, that we're actually interacting with. It's actually giving them options, but then so after options, we're helping them to create the plans. We're not actually telling them necessarily, but we're giving our sort of combination of facilitation and our experience. So that makes us really in a very good place. But what happens very often, I find, with accountants when I mentor them, is they're very good at doing this, very good at giving away for free to some extent, but then there's a question of making it worthwhile for the client and profitable for them. And then there's the point about which you can actually help them implement. And this is where sometimes I find some accountants hold back, because what they're actually doing is they're saying, yes, that's all this, and they're nervous because there isn't actually a specific solution to their issues. So actually you're helping the client to articulate and then helping them to come to the solution at the same time, giving them the benefit of your advice. But it's a good place to be because, I feel that the biggest gripe I get, and I see my other role is actually helping and coordinating the marketing of the practice, rather like where you come from, that actually the biggest gripe that clients have when they come to you and they say, my other accountant isn't proactive. So whatever proactive might mean. But I think business advisory is probably one of the most proactive areas you can actually provide, because that's what the client really wants you to understand them. And it's important that actually the client feels understood. And if you do it in the right way, I find their previous accountants probably never asked those salient questions, those business advisory questions, and they don't really feel truly understood. And if you believe all the surveys, actually the biggest thing between what clients want and what they don't get is actually being innovative and proactive. So business advisory, all of those things, but it's not necessarily, that's where the difference is, and people are hesitant about going to the business advisory area because it isn't actually one specific solution. It's actually a combination and helping them to come up with their solution at the same time, giving the benefit of your experience as well. Does that sort of give it some sort of context?
Yes, absolutely. And on the what Andrew's just said about the pulling from their head what they want to do or what they know to do. And you guys know your clients are smart people. They've done a lot. They've been very successful perhaps so far in what they've done. And there is a lot of value in saying less and waiting and then coming in with, it sounds like what you're saying is this, here's my input on it. And I'm sure many of you experience that as well. The other important point is he said about the trusted advisor. You absolutely are. I'm only taking a little bit of issue with the phrase because that can be overused. But accountants are incredibly trusted. I talk to accountants who say, I feel like I should have a psychology degree as well as my chartered accountant degree, because people come to me with things like divorces and deaths and serious things in their lives and massive tax bills. And this is a lot of what Andrew was saying about how they feel. This is, let's not kid ourselves, this is emotional stuff. And that can be a challenge to wrap your head around, because you think, well, it's numbers. But it isn't. Those numbers, I mean, it is numbers, but the numbers represent emotions and feelings and hurts and joys and life. And that is where I think accountants have this amazing opportunity, particularly with this kind of work, to take somebody from depressed, discouraged, stressed, worried, fearful, to happy, rested, profitable, cash in bank, time with family, whatever. And that's what we try to address when, particularly from a marketing perspective, we're sharing this with them. So that's the first thing is, what is it? But the second one, which we have already touched on, is to ask yourself what it actually means to them. And I remember I was talking to the guys at Customer Sure. They do surveys for accountants and professional service firms, and you can link it to Xero and send them out automatically after an invoice goes or whatever. And one of the things that they said is, if you want marketing material, send out these surveys like all the time, and the words that they use when you say, how did we do well, how could we do better, etc., those words, use those exact words for your marketing. So you're back to, you can say business advisory, but look, I mean, even in this room, there's so much difference of opinion. They're not wrong. There's just a difference of understanding about what it is. The same goes for all your thousands of clients, whether you have thousands yourself or hundreds yourself or 50. Each one of them is going to understand it differently. Some of them are going to twig to the word profit, and some to cash, and some to time, and some to control, and some to innovation, and some to technology. And you can't possibly cover them all, but you have to think about what it actually means to your clients. I've got a lot of clients that I work with who are addressing their business advisory services or management account services. And one of the benefits of things like Xero Cloud Accounting with all its 400 plus add-ons and integrations is it actually helps you to explain things in a more visual way. One of the Xero partners at an event I was doing a couple months ago said, you have to remember that your clients don't get as passionate as you do about facts and figures. They get a lot more interested in visuals. So if you can show it to them visually, most of them, not every single one, but most of them are going to engage with it. So I'm going to let Andrew talk to this concept as well about what it means and how he's addressed that with clients. Yeah. Customer Sure, it's called, yeah. And you can also put a little logo on your website that automatically updates to show your ratings. So if you have, like a couple of my clients use it, and it shows like 9.7 out of 10. And the beautiful thing, this is not a promotion for Customer Sure in any way, but when I see a tool that helps, I love to tell people about it, because what it does is it gives you the opportunity to answer things right away. If they have a problem, you sort it. You don't wait till a year later and go, did you have any problems in the last year? And they go, I feel pretty happy today. I'll give you an 8. And then you email them tomorrow when something went wrong, and they give you a 2. And then 3 days later, when you've sorted it out, they give you a 10. So you need to average them out.
So the issue is, what does it mean to your clients? I think clients actually are pretty clear about what business advisory is. It's the sort of things that were mentioned earlier at the first few comments. You know, they understand that actually it's helping them to develop and improve their business. And I think they see that somewhat distinct from actually, you know, in making sure that you're actually preparing the accounts correctly and doing tax returns. So I think actually they do get it, and they know the accountants that can provide that service, and the people they go to just to actually, you know, do the numbers for them, and the people they go to almost either as a mentor or as a coach to help them actually develop their business. The important thing is actually, and where the reticence is do we feel confident in what we're doing, or does the client have confidence in us providing that? And sometimes I think the feeling is, especially from my own practice and my own experience with other partners, they feel they can go so far insofar as giving the numbers, giving the historical data, interpreting it, but actually when it comes to looking forward, they get very, very hesitant and reticent. But actually that's where I believe the client, where the need is or where the want is to say, look, what does it all mean? How can I actually progress with the going forward? So it means to a client actually creating a proper business partnership, so that actually it's more than just actually, it's a professional relationship. It actually gets under the skin, because inevitably, and I'm talking in the SME market, you are going to get into personal issues. This week, for example, I was with a client, a new client on Tuesday. Can I give an example? Yeah, because examples are pretty good, I think. It was a client that came to me as a hypnotherapist. Actually, it runs a psychology and hypnotherapy school, successful, but they were griping about the fact they didn't get a reactive service from their accountant. Everything's late and all the usual things you'd expect when you're seeing a new client. But it was the opportunity really to say, okay, there's all of that, and of course you listen and reflect back. But actually the opportunity then presents itself actually talking about what was really, really important to you. And what was really, really important to them is they don't own their own home, because they were in the US, they didn't get into the UK property market. That's a really, really big thing for them. And actually making sure that actually their business can actually enable them to go onto the property ladder here was one of their biggest things of all. Unless you start to ask those sort of questions and want to be there to help them achieve it. So we got out of the sort of accountancy side and we got into the say, what is the most important in your business? What does it mean to you? This is what, and therefore it automatically got into the business advisory side. And I think that's what clients really need. Otherwise, they'll separate you. They'll go to other people necessarily. But in a trusted advisor state place, they do trust us with their money. We are the custodians of their finances very often, and we sometimes fall short of not providing that. So we got, and I can tell you more of how the story. We'll see whether or not I was able to provide them with a form of process, and that we left us very successful, hopefully converted client meeting. I was able to give them a proposal quote there, which I can do at the same time, and also we got some formulation about what their priorities were. So I think getting into that area is what it means to clients really feel part of actually you're part of their business team and you're part of a partnership with them. You're not just you do the figures and somebody else might give us some advice. So if you can get in that space, and I think it's easy to get in that space provided you have the confidence and some of the tools to enable you to do it.
Thank you. Any questions at this point? Feel free.
Yeah. It's good that you're enunciating that approach and the way to take that forward, and it may well be that Andrew is particularly skilled at doing that. And typically we have a situation, certainly in our practice, I should imagine it's fairly common across the board, that you've perhaps got one or two people who are good at it, and the rest need to be skilled up in actually how to deliver it, if we're able to deliver that across the whole client base. How do you suggest, or what are your suggestions for actually empowering those people with the necessary skills to do that?
Do you want to answer this now or get to the... Yeah.
Happily, I don't want to push you to one side. It's actually having some sort of structure. So I do believe, however, what you say is partly correct. Sorry, I'll take them up.
Yeah.
I do believe what you say is partly correct. You'll have those people that never want to go there. And let's be honest, we can earn a good living at the moment by actually never going there and sticking to our particular areas. But what happens, I believe, as time's going on, and we'll talk about the way the profession is going, is that as time goes on, we're becoming more of an advisory profession. Digital age is coming in more and more. We've seen it happen with travel agents. So what you'll do is you'll have a bigger percentage. And if you took at percentages overall, because I've done some sort of research on this, you'll typically find maybe one in six of your partners, you've got 6 partners, will be very good at it. And what you tend to feel is actually over a period of time, especially some of your younger partners that are less, if you like, settled in the way they do things, that's what's happened in my practice. My younger partners actually are very comfortable in this area, but you've been doing something for 20, 30 years in a particular way, it's going to be a big shift. So I think it's actually a growing trend that become more and more advisory. You're never going to get everybody doing it. But if you can get a larger percentage doing it, you'll get more client satisfaction, you'll get more fees. But it is a gradual thing, and I absolutely understand what you're saying, and that is the case. Not everybody's ever going to do it, but a greater percentage start to do it if you've got the right tools and you're doing it in the right way.
Thanks. And we are going to talk more about structure, so it's a perfect lead-in, because that question naturally arises from, okay, I've got the concept of what business advisory is to me, to the clients. How do I do that in a way that is efficient? And then we think about things like scalability, which is such a And I don't think that one's a buzzword yet because it literally is so important to every business. You can't just be the one-man band and sorting everything yourself. And when you start off, you think you can. You're like, I can do all the things. And then you get more clients and you realize that you just don't have more than 24 hours in the day. So structure is really important to that. So what we're going to look at with structure is it's good to offer them, but if you get into the habit of simply sitting down and having a nice chat and hearing from them, then it all comes down to you personally, and you have to decide whether it is just going to be you personally, whether you are going to bring, are there other team members, and I'm sure Andrew will address this, are there other team members who want to do that? I mean, we had an experience like that in my own business where one of our team members had said his goal is to give a TED Talk one day. And he told me that when we interviewed him. And I thought, oh, that's really cool. And so we had this opportunity for a presentation that I couldn't do. And I said, do you want it? And he's like, ooh, I'm a little nervous, but yeah, I'll take it. And I was really proud of him for stepping up to that. But then when we got close to the time, there was a little nervousness of, oh, can I really do this? And when we whittled it down, the nervousness was not to do with the presentation or the content. It was to do with will I give a good impression of the profitable firm? And I said, the very fact that you're asking that question thrills me to death because you're so focused on the right things. And there is a real tendency of accountants to hold all the cards close to your chest. Your clients, your structures, your processes. And as was said this morning, I forget whether it was Chaz or Heather, that making mistakes can actually turn out okay. Because you don't want to constantly make them, of course, but if you make a mistake, and I think it was Chaz, and he was saying he went in 2.7 million pounds or whatever it was, and he just said, I'm sorry, got it wrong. And you have to let your team, whether it's other partners or other team members, they are going to get it wrong. You are going to get it wrong. And that's not the end of the world. And when it comes to business advisory, that's even more true than ever because there's so much that fluctuates with it. So I think we covered the number 2 items, terminology about the client. Oh, results. This was the one thing I did want to mention. It's really important to tell stories. I know Andrew's going to finish off his story, but any stories that you have. As an example of a story, I was telling one of my contacts last night, an accountancy firm, that she had somebody come and he was expecting about £200 a month for management accounts type work. She quoted £600 a month, and he said, it's a lot of money. And I said, well, you know what the answer to that is, right? And she said, well, we had a discussion and all this. And I said, well, in my opinion, the answer is yes, it is. And then you wait. And then you either address it or you say, well, come back to me when you're ready. Because being an accountant is professional services. It's all about expertise. It's all about credibility. And if you go, the price is this, and we will talk about pricing later, the price is this, oh, okay, for you it's this. They're going, well, how often do you do that for other people? How often do you do that for everyone else? Who else gets discounted? Just throws it out of the water. So there's a lot of confidence that needs to go into this, but there is a testing period too. So I'm going to let Andrew talk to the structure. Perhaps you have some history of how you worked through, because it's really important to realize you're not going to get the perfect structure right away. If you go back into the office tomorrow and you go, right, I'm sorting this out, I'm going to have a structure for my management account services, and by Monday, we're going to have packages on the website, done. It's an iterative process, so just go with it, try something, and then keep trying. But I'll let Andrew tell you his experience there.
Okay, so as you said, it may not appeal to everybody. I think there are some things that are common that can be done, and there are people naturally that do gravitate towards this sort of work. When I first started 20 years ago, from my own experience, yes, I had some of my own tools. So I suppose there's a couple of ways of doing it. You can either develop those processes yourself through, that can take time, or actually you can think about whether I'm actually going to reinvent the wheel. And there are a number of processes and business advisory tools. There's provided by 2020, AVN, I'm sure, provide it. The old boot camp. I don't know who went here on boot camp. Any boot campers here? I'm the old fogey. But the boot campers, and I don't know whether Paul Dunn is here, but he sort of started this sort of idea of, you've got to be out of compliance and get into the advisory side. The one I use is CAS, Complete Advisory Solutions. I put some input into it, and it just works in a very seamless way. But there are others around, and it's really what's appropriate to you. But for me, that's worked very well. But in terms of actually the processes to get started, or the structured way, I've actually asked this question. I did a poll my own, about 25 firms that actually say, and from sole practitioners up to sort of 20 partner firms, do you provide business advisory service in a structured way? 24 of them actually admitted they don't do it in a structured way, and actually they don't necessarily able to charge or able to make it a separate profit centre. So it is an issue. The way that I have approached it in terms of the tools that I use is, to some extent, you need a taster, whether it's something you develop yourself or something that's actually proprietary, already on the market. Because if you're going to involve yourself with a client in business advisory, it's quite a personal, interpersonal relationship. There's a lot of bonding. They're going to have to trust you that actually they are going to divulge some of their own personal issues as well. So there's some sort of a taster session that's useful. I used to go straight into a whole strategy day, this sort of thing. It wasn't as successful. So once we started to use more of a taster approach. So it could last a half an hour or an hour, or it could last in 5 or 10 minutes. But really, it's asking those critical questions in a structured way. Where do you want to be in the future? What is it that's most important to you at the moment? Is it the fact that you're a sales and marketing plan? Is it the fact that actually you want to go around the world? Whatever it happens to be. And actually, as a result of that, we can produce a little chart together. So I'm finding actually the talking is good, but actually most people are quite visual. And if you can get it into some sort of chart that helps them actually articulate and see it visually, you tend to get more buy-in. And it tends to divide actually between clients that are possibly new and potential clients, like the one I mentioned I saw on Tuesday, where we took the conversation into another area or into a developed area, and with your existing clients. So having the taster session with an existing client might be very easy. The way I do it, the way we do it in our practice is, part of the accounts meeting agenda is about the future. What is it that actually, where this is what the history has been. So obviously you want to try and do accounts as early to your year end as possible, where they still mean something. And what is it that we can begin to see in the future that is possible? And then from that, one develops, well, what are the priorities that actually take that further forward? So it starts off with the sort of figurative side, which is we find from the point of view of a traditional accountant, quite an easy way, the transition, looking at the figures, looking at the future figures, and then articulating it a bit more into sort of dreams and wishes and all these sort of more esoteric areas. So that sort of process takes you into, say, well, what are we going to do about it? And if we're going to do something about it, here are some areas that, if you've got some tools there to say it might be. I prefer to start off, if I have anything when I get in the business advisory side, with their overall strategy. Can we produce an overall strategy plan that actually, so I understand and you understand where you want to go. And as accountants, I feel very comfortable actually putting that in, apart from just the words, and it could be sales and marketing. It obviously starts with their objectives, personal and business. We start off with that sort of area and then get into specifically sales and marketing, people issues. And actually, I finish up with that sort of process, the tools that I use, into a financial model over the next possibly 3 to 4 years. So we can actually see, does this all make sense? And from there, we start getting involved in helping them to implement it and actually meeting on a regular basis. It might be monthly, it might be quarterly, and providing that sort of support whereby we review, we monitor, if it doesn't go quite according to plan, and you become part and parcel of their business process, and that's where you get the business advisory side. That's typically with an existing client who may not have done it before. With new clients, it actually can sometimes be an easier step. You're not seen necessarily as just the accountant. Actually, in the same way as this client, I saw a potential client on Tuesday, and it's happened many times. In fact, sometimes when I've done that session, the client's got some issues with their bank manager. We bring their bank manager into this sort of taster session, this energizer session is what we call it. So they can help, and actually that's sometimes transformed. Because what you normally get, particularly from this taster session that starts everything off, is they can see the wood for the trees. That's what you want to help them to see, with somebody that's been there and done it and has got experience in the business world. So that sort of structure of having taster, then going into more developed tools, it could be performance, profit improvement, it could be an element of risk management, key performance management. That's why sometimes you don't want you can invent some of your own, but it's actually adapt the ones that are actually available on the market, and you can make them quite personal. Does that sort of answer in a structured way? I've got more to it, but I'll stop now.
Well, I was going to actually ask Andrew, what specific tools do you use? But I think I'm going to hold off, not because I'm not interested, and you can certainly ask him later and he can list them all out if you want. But the point that Andrew just made is a really valuable one. There are loads of tools out there. I mean, you guys have seen this. You're just swamped with these opportunities of tools and software. And then these days, without all this cloud integrated stuff, most of which integrates with Xero, your cloud accounting. It's phenomenal stuff, and you do need to pick the ones that you like and that are a fit. Remember, go back to your clients. What do they want? We have a firm we work with who exclusively works with creative agencies. So they use crunch boards for their management accounts because it's very visual. It's very simple. That doesn't mean it fits with every single firm everywhere. There's tons of them. There's so many tools that are out there, and it's good to pick, try a few of them, ask people what they're using. If you ask 100 people and 90 of them say this particular tool, it might be a good one to check out. But just run it past your clients and check with them. The other things I wanted to point out that Andrew said that I completely agree with are along the side of seeing what other people are doing and copying not exactly what they're doing, but the style of it. If you like the idea of a taster thing, give it a go. And you can immediately see it. You can go, oh, it's like an opportunity for a free trial, but you don't sell a product. So if you can give them a little session and give them some value from it, and they can come away going, oh, wow, I actually implemented that 3 days later, then you've got something to build on. It's better to start low and have them go up. I think with business advisory, and we will talk about pricing later, you tend to think, okay, I need to charge 1,200 quid a month, and I'm going to offer all these things, and here you go. Do you want the 900 pounds a month or the 1,200 or the 2,000? And they're going, I currently spend 150. I'm not sure. So see if you can slowly move people up. Let them build trust in what you're offering. The other thing is imagery. Obviously, as a creative myself, I'm passionate about good imagery. And unfortunately, accountancy firms have historically been really bad at having good imagery, good graphics, because you have to spend money. I'm just going to put it out there. If you want good graphics, it's going to cost you money. If it costs you a very tiny, tiny bit of money, then you've either worked with somebody who's still building their portfolio, or it's not going to be good. I do talk to accountants all the time that go, I want good graphics. I don't even know if I know what good graphics are. And then we share them something, say, do you like it? And they go, I'm not sure. What do you think? I'm going, well, I wouldn't give it to you if I thought it was rubbish, but it is important that you like it and you engage with it. So if for any reason you don't like it, let's go back to the drawing board until you do, because you might not know what you want until you see it. So, but having something, like one of our clients has this thing, he's in America, so prepare yourself for American wording. It's called Awesome 8, and it's got 8 areas that he talks to clients about: cash, profit, tax, retirement. It's not rocket science. It's all the same things you guys talk about. But because it's his, and because, you can Google it, Holden Moss, Awesome 8, and he's got this cool little graphic, which we designed for him, and this little questionnaire you can take, and all that. He's got 8 pages that have all this stuff, and he gets new clients because they go, oh, that's pretty awesome, actually. So to have something that's quickly understandable. He put it, I gave him the logo once he'd approved it. We hadn't even done the 8 landing pages, the questionnaire, the downloads, the CRM, all that stuff. That all came later. We gave him the logo. He printed it nicely on canvas, put it on his boardroom. Next prospect that came in looked at it and stood there for like 2 minutes while they were waiting for the partner to come. And when the partner came in, he goes, I want that one, and that one. And I don't care how much it costs. Now, he got the right client for that latter comment, of course, but the guy just got it immediately. He didn't come in and go, I want accounts and tax and VAT and payroll. He said, these are the things I care about. That's what Andrew is saying. Do they care about their house, their children, their success in business, the ability to travel, whatever it is? Find out that thing, and then have something visual that they can engage with. And it's really important that it be yours. If you took Awesome 8, well, first off, it would be wrong, and please don't do it. But if you took it and then said, oh, okay, we do Awesome 8, first off, the word awesome, I mean, most of you are like, it's a little American. And then it wouldn't be yours. The reason it works for him is because the whole firm, all 25 people in the firm get it. So it's really important that when you structure it, to have something visual that you can share so that they get it right away. Did you want to say anything else on pricing, or do we want to address that when we go to profitability? Yeah. Okay. So the next question that we often get asked once we get to this stage, so we're like, okay, we got business advisory, need to ask about the clients, need to have a whole structured process. So we've got our process, we're going to test it out, it's not going to be perfect, we're going to go, how do we get lots of it? And you'll notice this is number 4. We're going to submit to you that that is not the right number 4, because there's no point in getting tons more unless it's profitable. I talk to accountants about this with niche marketing all the time. They're saying, oh, I could have a niche in dentists. I'm like, how many dentists do you have? 3. I'm like, okay, that's a start. Out of how many clients? 400. I'm like, okay, so maybe, you have a little knowledge, but the big question is not do you have 3 clients or do you have 300, is it profitable to work with dentists or missionaries or creative agencies or specialized tax or property owners, whatever it be. And so that I want to let Andrew talk about profitability and about pricing, because we're always getting asked, oh, how should I price it? Well, there's, however many people are in here, 60 or 100 different ways that you could. But addressing your structure first and then your profitability will help you determine how to price it. So I'll let you address that.
So let's start off with the taster session. I reckon 30 to 40% of the time I actually charge between 500 and 750 for this 1 to 1.5. If it goes to 1 to 1.5 hours, and that's with potential clients, although you've got to go through all the money laundering stuff and the rest of it. The rest of it, it's just added value for the client. So it's a decision as to whether you're going to charge for the taster session. But you are giving real value, and therefore it is worth something, because I produce a little report, you can produce a little report with some graphics, as you say, and they're getting real value out of it. Probably some of the best value they've ever got, actually, because if they're being allowed to talk about something more than just historical figures. The way that actually, I'll give you some processes that may adapt to what you, and it's actually, I've got a credit to actually Mark Wickersham at AVM for this, because, and I'm quoting his book for doing it, but he started off the process. But I find it works really, really well. Let's start off with a new client, like the one I just saw this week, and I call it the 5-4-3 star process. Now, I've thought of all other different sorts of names. I'll start off, although call it the 5-4-3, 3-4 is actually, and it sells better like that. So just bear that in mind. But let's explain what, first of all, 3-star is. 3-star is what this client on Tuesday came to me for. He wanted his accounts, he wanted his tax, he wanted tax returns rather. He just wanted a good service, somebody to respond to him quickly. That's all the compliance stuff. So it will typically be what you expect: payroll, statutory, annual returns, accounts, etc. The 4-star service I provide, and I'll give you ideas of prices in a minute, is actually all of that, plus tax planning and wealth management. It's another area which is very akin to what they'd expect. Not everybody does good tax saving advice. It's more difficult. It's becoming more of an art these days because of all the anti-avoidance legislation. But nonetheless, clients want you to save them tax. They want their personal wealth to be looked after, whether you do it within your firm or you do it with an IFA. And then I have the 5-star service, which actually is all of that, and actually it's business development as well. It sometimes includes the taster session, if they haven't already done it. It also includes the strategic plan that actually might take 2 half days, and I'll give you some idea what I normally charge. Or it's maybe sometimes one I did this week, for example, and I did 3 or 4 weeks ago for a firm of solicitors, 8 partner firm of solicitors, 4 equity partners. That was the whole strategic plan. It took a day and a half. For that, I charged a separate fee of $8,500 for a day and a half work actually using this process. So they see value in it, and it was a great, and that wasn't a problem with actually getting that sort of fee. So the 5-star process includes that strategic plan, so we know where we're going for the future, and thereafter quarterly meetings to see how they're actually going through are they implementing their strategy plan? Is it changing? Are there some areas that we've got to develop? But also, I think sometimes accountants think they've got to do everything. Very often when I'm doing business advisory, I'll say actually bring in somebody like yourself and say the sales and marketing really needs addressing. I can't provide that, or I can provide it to a certain extent in terms of referrals, but you need an expert. So accountants using other people alongside themselves is a little bit alien to us. We sort of think we should be self-contained, but actually it's part of the business advisory process as well. So that actually, making it profitable in that way. And it's worked very well for me. It's worked very well for a lot of other practices. You could perhaps adapt it. But having something pre-packaged that say, this is my management meeting toolkit, if you like, and this is what we do on a quarterly basis. I do tend to say that I reverse risk it. If you're not, we play it on direct debit. It's all in advance, so it's great with debtors and cash flow because it's all paid on monthly by direct debit. They stop it at any time. I haven't known anybody stop it within a year. Sometimes we phase it down because there's a non-executive comes in, but nonetheless we're still involved. So direct debit, package it up, whether it's management meetings, whether it's performance improvement. Clients like to know there's something specific at a price. And if you have to adjust the price, temporarily, I tend not to give it away. I say, if you're not delighted, I'll refund it back with pleasure. But thereafter, it becomes part of the routine. And that what I find is year after year, yes, of course, we have our management meetings. So a client that normally, I'll give you some idea of prices now, shall I? So the 3-star process for a small firm, for a small company may be, what would you charge? Although we're sort of suburban practice and the West End, we're charging, I don't know how many people here, charging for typically limited company, personal tax returns, all that sort of stuff, probably £2,500 to £3,000 a year. That's a sort of 3-star package. 4-star package, including all the tax, is about £5,000 to £6,000 generally, payable by monthly direct debit. Reverse risk the extra, we'll always save you that in tax. If not, we'll refund it, we always do. And the 5-star package, including everything, 10 to 12,000. It's actually 10 to 15,000 pounds if they're buying as a package. Again, on a monthly basis. It works well. It's worked well for us. Adapt it if you wish. Management meetings, I'll tend to be, we haven't done through that process, but we're just having quarterly management meetings, actually £3,600 a month, but for quarterly meetings, about 2 hours per meeting. But they would get a report alongside that. That's the sort of pricing that I find is more than acceptable, and I think clients like to know where they are, rather like going into a restaurant or somewhere else. You like to know the price before you come in. Accountants, certainly from my generation, were very the slower you go, the more you charge. I think that's beginning to change somewhat. They like to know the prices, but I don't think there's any real. And I charge. My rate is not cheap, so I try and actually recover the rate. But actually, sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. But you want to make sure you're 90% plus overall. But I think you need to give fixed prices when you're doing this sort of work.
Just to add on the pricing, we could do an entire session, maybe even a whole day on pricing. We did a webinar at the Profitable Firm on pricing that I think has some really. We actually had a guest speaker come in because I don't pretend to be a pricing expert. You can find it on the Profitable Firm website and listen to the recording or give me a card and we'll make sure that you get a link to it. There is so much to be said about pricing. The one thing I will say is start where you think is reasonable to start, but probably a little higher than that, because you tend to push it down a little and go, I don't know if I can charge quite as much as Andrew does, so I'll start here. Yeah.
No, that's right. Who here is a growth accelerator coach? You are. I would have thought you would be. I thought you would be. How many people here know about growth accelerator, to a reasonable level? I'm a growth accelerator coach. I think it's just an opportunity for the moment for 2017. Nowadays, it's pretty easy to get qualified as a growth accelerator coach. It's an online process. What you're able to do, and I do it frequently, is actually for a business which is 5 to 50 employees, doing that strategic work initially, up to about, which I would charge normally £3,500 for a strategy process lasting a day. That's about a day's work. Actually, the government will give you back, or effectively, it's a complicated process, half. In fact, the client pays £1,600 for that. And thereafter, the implementation process on leadership and management skills, the government will pay back, actually, for every £2,000 each senior manager that they're charging them, they'll give back to the client another £2,000. So every £4,000 for the implementation per senior manager, the client gets back £2,000. So look into Growth Accelerator. It's horribly complicated. They don't make it complicated. They make it more administratively cumbersome, but actually offering your client the opportunity of doing this to grow. And I'm a recipient of Growth Accelerator for some of our sales and marketing. So look into Growth Accelerator. It's a way of actually getting grants. It's universal. It's not particularly by geographical area. It's a bit cumbersome administrative-wise, but if you want to get in this area, it's a good catalyst to get clients to accept it.
I'm really glad you mentioned that. Andrew asked if he thought that would be a good thing to mention. And as you can tell, many of you are aware of it, but you're not approved as it. That is a huge opportunity, because this is your tester opportunity. This is for you to say, listen, it's worth £5,000. It's worth £12,000, but it's only going to cost you $2,500 or $6,000 or whatever it be because of this opportunity.
The way you described it, not a problem with free money, but it tends to be promoted as you only have to pay half, where it should be promoted as you can buy twice as much.
Yeah, that is a good point. It was saying it rather than saying, oh, well, you only have to pay half, you can get twice as much. I think I was trying to address the element of they may not be ready to spend at that level. So you're saying if you're not quite ready, but you still need these services, this is an opportunity. But that is really good. You do need to stick to the value of what it is. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as Andrew says, it is an administrative nightmare. So just prepare yourself for that. But the fact that your client can apply for £16,000 worth of funding, you get 16 and they pay 8. It's worth a lot of hoops to go through. And interestingly, the Profitable Firm, part of our parent company, Business Growth Services, is Growth Accelerator approved. So some of our clients have gotten funding for us to help them on a marketing side, which addresses exactly the same concept. I have so many accountants going, I would love to get the new website and do this and all this, and there's so much strategy involved in it. And it's, the price is the price. I'm not going to kid you. Our websites aren't cheap, and there's a good reason for that. And if there's an opportunity to do twice as much marketing than you would be able to do, it's just a no-brainer. Anyway, we spent a lot of time on this. We've only got a few more minutes. So I'm going to very quickly address this one. We put this towards the end in terms of why it's so more important. We put this towards the end because we thought we don't want to come in at the beginning and go, guys, brainwave, cloud accounting is here, digital marketing, that's not a brainwave, it's not a new thing, it's not a revolution. This is the way we do business, this is the way we do life. We use Wi-Fi, we use Twitter. So all of that has affected what people want from their accountant. And most of you know that, you wouldn't be in this room otherwise, and it's really important to realize that we are now in a new phase of the accounting industry. We're in it. We're not heading into it. We're in it. And if you're not offering this at good valued prices that are profitable for you, then you're either going to settle into being a bookkeeper or you're going to provide this kind of service. So the final question, we just have about 2 more minutes. So I'm going to let Andrew address how you do more of it, and then I'll close this off.
I think actually it's the taster session is pretty important in your armory. I think in your to have something there that actually opens up that opportunity to talk about it with the client. I'd say that I would encourage you, if you have that process that you can develop, to make it part of almost every meeting you have with a client, when you have with a prospect. So you don't necessarily want you work to their agenda. You want to understand where they really want to be. And also I think that it's actually it's sometimes quite appropriate to do it with even contacts and introducers to say, where are you going with your business? And it can actually often develop into mutual business as well. I think you should review the structured business tools that are on the market, see which ones most suit you, and really go through all the ones that actually there's a number here I know possibly. But actually the most important thing, one of the most personally, is actually why not do it on yourself? If you actually think to yourself, we're all got businesses here, how many of us actually have done our own strategy plan? I looked at some independently. I've been doing it for 20 years. Every 6 months, we actually have a strategy session with an outside facilitator. I've done tons and tons of them, but actually it's refreshing to hear it from the outside. Lots of things have come up that with somebody there's no axe to grind. And I'd say about all the things, if we've got any success that we've had as a firm, the most important thing that we've done over the years is actually to look at ourselves in the same way as we're advocating for clients. And not that many accountants, I've been in a room with many accountants, actually do it on themselves to a really great extent. So if you do it, and also from a marketing perspective, it actually, if you say you're doing it yourself, and you say, look, I'm only advocating what we do on ourselves, it's actually a great way of converting the actual, the tool. So all I'd say to you is if you want to discuss it afterwards, I'm around. Want to give me your business card, I'll send you on some of the things that might be useful to you. More than happy to talk about it on an individual basis, after lunch or whatever. But thank you for your attention. I hope it's been useful.
Just on the marketing side, because that is what we do 100% of the time, it's what I'm passionate about. My suggestion for item 6, in terms of how you do more of it, would be to get a visual of some kind put together. It can be very simple. We're happy to help. If you want to get an outsourcer or a freelancer to do it, fine, but something that helps your clients engage with it. I would say get a visual and then share it with everybody. Make it part of your marketing in terms of just talking to people. Every meeting that you have, every email that you send out, put it on your website. This is the slow trickle. This is not going to be the kind of thing you present and you send one email via MailChimp and you have 50 new clients take it up. It's going to be one every month for the next 50 months or that kind of process. So that would be my suggestion. Like Andrew said, I send out marketing tips every Friday on this kind of thing. If that would be helpful, give me a card or give it to Debbie. Debbie, wave your hand. And either one of us will make sure you get on there. But hopefully this has helped you to look at what business advisory is from a client perspective and your own, structure it, make sure it's profitable, and then tell your world about it. Thank you.